Can I start off saying I expect members take around 5 minutes. Now I start with David Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Given the nature of the debate, I'm going to try and make my simple points in 3 minutes. All of us, cheers from our side anyway. Now, I expect that we're all going to vote for this bill. The House is of one in wishing to stop the murderous behaviour of Putin in Ukraine and to punish him and his elite for carrying out such evil crimes against humanity. Which is not to say that this is a perfectly crafted bill. To some extent, that's inevitable. It's had to be constructed in a hurry from an original economic crime bill which was designed for a different purpose under different circumstances. And in some ways worse than that, it's being operated by 3 or 4 departments, some of whom are operating in areas which they're not used to, which is often not a pretty sight. I speak as an ex-minister in that respect. So the government, I think, is going to do 2 sensible things. I think it's going to accept most or many of the amendments that have been put in front of it. And that is sensible because most of them are thoughtful and they're all well-intentioned. Secondly, the Home Secretary actually said that we're going to see a second economic crime bill. And of course, we're making plans and projections for that, but one of its functions will be to correct the mistakes we make today. And there will be many, because we're dealing with a difficult and sophisticated adversary, and we're making decisions quickly.
I'm grateful. I want him to just expand his time slightly. So I'd like him to just agree with me, and I hope my honourable friend on the front bench is listening, that whatever happens with the economic crime bill when it comes down to it, we are very clear that those in the other place who last time deliberately amended to water down the provisions in that bill that would have got after many of these people, they have some warning that they're never going to do that ever again.
Well, I'm pretty sure they'll hear that warning when they look back on this bill today. Now, as Lenin, I don't often quote Lenin, but this is probably appropriate, as Lenin famously said, a bayonet is a weapon with a worker at each end. And that is also true of this bill. It will do great harm to the Russian economy. It will do great harm to our adversaries in Russia. But it will also do some harm to us, or at least the retaliation will do some harm to us. We will see, and particularly it will hit the least well off. So we'll see greater price inflation, we'll see less growth, less trade, and therefore less jobs. And we must recognise that when we undertake what we're doing here. We can make Russia a pariah state, but Putin will retaliate, and we must be ready. We need to be ready for fuel crises, for cyber attacks, and for the ludicrous threats from the Kremlin. There are many further things beyond this bill, however, that we can do in the West, and we should be ready to do them too. To pick just one example, the Allies should be ready to reduce every Russian embassy to a bare minimum, to a skeleton status, by expulsion of diplomats at the first sign of retaliatory action from Russia. It must be clear to Russia that they will pay if they retaliate again. We have said, and we must keep saying, that this is not aimed at punishing the Russian people. That is incredibly important in what we're doing. This bill should be targeting the Russian government and Putin and his henchmen themselves. That's why the actions against the oligarchs in this bill are just as important as the actions against the Russian banks and commercial institutions. There have been some briefing from Whitehall over the weekend which implies they're not. That is wrong. We've all heard the rumours that Putin has something like $200 billion of personal wealth. He doesn't hold any of it himself. It's held by the 140 plus oligarchs around the world. Therefore, targeting them is, as I said, at least as important as targeting the Russian state banks. And to do that properly, we will have to act fast, and that is the thrust of my amendment later on when we come to the committee or report stage. We should not kid ourselves. This is not an economic crime bill, it's an economic warfare bill. And it's a war that the liberal democracies cannot afford to lose.